In episode number 291 of the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, we cover Daniel's recent visit to C2E2 2018.
We also have Shazam's Zachary Levi on the new costume and his response to some of the negative comments.
And our comic highlight this week is actually an interview with My Hero MAGAdemia, Wall Might's Timothy Lim.
All of this and so much more on today's episode.
Hello and welcome to the Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week, ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and so much more. I am your Emperor Palpa Kelli.
And I am Darth Vader Daniel.
And for those of you joining us, I haven't finished my coffee yet, guys. I'm sorry. But if you're joining us for the very first time, welcome to the show. The way we format it is first we start out with some news. We have our Patreon shoutouts, Brocat Block, where we talk about our personal life, what's going on, and at the very end, we are going to have that comic interview for you.
That's right. If you're a first-time listener, you're listening to the Podcast Awards 2017 nominated Other Games and Hobbies podcast. So we hope you find something on today's episode that you do enjoy.
And with that, we are going to jump right into our news. Dark Horse is now offering full returnability on several upcoming titles to retailers as long as they order 10 issues. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Dark Horse is, of course, the comic book publisher that is coming out with... They recently lost the full line, within the last 5 years. They lost the full line of Star Wars comic books to Disney.
Yeah.
So Marvel is now republishing those. So they are instead working to kind of curate the properties that they do have. And the series that are under the 10-issue returnability are Xerxes, The Fall of the House of Darius and the Rise of Alexander, which spins straight out of 300, Ether, Copper, Golems, Black Hammer, Age of Doom, and Aliens, Dust to Dust. I'm sorry, one more, Blackwood as well. So several of their new number ones, new series that they're banking on being their new ongoings. I think the biggest one being probably Xerxes and Aliens, Dust to Dust.
So is Xerxes based off Xerxes from 300?
Yes.
Oh, man.
You didn't like Xerxes?
I mean, he was okay, but like Xerxes, biblically speaking, in the Bible story, is the one who married Esther, which was like my favorite story because it was a romance. I was a young girl.
Was he like anything like in 300?
No.
I am a powerful god.
No,
I'm going
wasn't.
by the movie, of course.
He very much wasn't. What he did was, do you know the story of Esther?
No, go ahead and tell me.
Oh man, it was super cool. I'll tell you what I remember because it was a very long time ago. So Xerxes is like, I want to marry all the ladies. So he married a bunch of wives, and then he was gonna go and kill... Oh, he got mad at one of his wives and like beheaded her or something. And then he was gonna go kill all the Jews, which was Esther's people. And she's like, this can't happen. I'm gonna go in and talk to him. And they're like, no, you're gonna fucking die if you do that. She's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. And so she went in like to talk to him, and he was supposed to kill her, but then he didn't. And then she saved her people.
And then they fell in love?
They were already in love. That's why he didn't kill her, because he fell in love with her.
All right. Well, I don't think that happens here.
Well, okay.
But if it did, you'd be
I would.
to that
Man,
fucking
I'd be all over it. Like, yeah, fucking Xerxes and Esther.
They recently came out. It wasn't Dark Horse, I don't think. It was Boom Studios. They did a Judas comic book. It was 4 issues long, in which it kind of told it sort of from his perspective and put in the question of, does divine intervention kind of change maybe not making him as guilty because he was such a pivotal portion to the story.
Because if it wasn't for him, then none of it would have happened.
Right. So that's what that comic told. It was 4 issues. Went out of print really quickly, but...
That's really interesting. That's an interesting take on that story.
Comics. The world of comics. You can do that kind of stuff.
Fan fiction, too.
In the past, Dark Horse have offered returnability. The 10-copy threshold, though, is lower than before. So basically what this means to anyone that is a little unfamiliar in how the back end of certain comic shops work is comics in general are not returnable. So most comic shops, whatever they don't sell, they have to eat. Mm. And whenever publishers do
literally, that's their dinner.
So whenever publishers do have the returnability, it gives it kind of like a good, okay, go ahead and find the ceiling on the particular issue. So a lot of times they'll be more careful on ordering. I know I definitely am. It's like, okay, this is a new series. We don't really know if there's going to be a readership for it. So let's just get maybe 2 or 3 extra copies for the stands. It depends on what the property is.
Right.
So in this case, they're like, whatever you order, you can go ahead and return. So what a lot of shops will do is they're like, okay, let's go ahead and order at least 10. So let's say 3 subscribers are down for Aliens, Dust to Dust. It's like, all right, so let me get order the 10. Why not? And then get 7 copies extra to hit the stands. And then if you sell 3 of them, then okay, I need to order 6, 3 for my subscribers, 3 for the stands, or maybe 7, 1 extra for the stands. And then you can return the 2 that you didn't sell. The only downside to this, and obviously I've worked at the shop for several years, is that the returnability doesn't come for several months. So you have to always keep an eye on it. And then you have to ship them back and then return the covers, and then you get credit on your next order. So I found that sometimes I check it every Monday because there's a stack of comics that I know were returnable, like Star Wars Adventures, which apparently came and went already. So I was like, I've been checking that every week and I didn't miss it. I've been checking all these. And so we had to eat those copies and we had to eat those issues. So I'm very cautious now on returnability. And I know a lot of comic shops from interviews that I've heard on certain podcasts, they're just like, if I have to do math or if I have to hit a threshold, I just don't even bother with the returnability. I just order as is. If I hit the 10 copies, fine. But if I don't, I ordered only based on, what will go on the back issues or what I know will sell. But some of the bigger shops, I think that's a bigger cushion for them. A smaller shop like the one I'm at, you don't want to take the risk on, okay, let's order 10 of all of these and then eventually return them someday.
Right. I think that's still a great thing for them to do. We've talked about it in the past, and that's really a way to sell more books because, like you said, you would order very cautiously. Some of these titles you may not ever order because nobody signs up for them and you don't want to take the hit that maybe they sit on the shelves.
Right.
But now you put it on the shelf and somebody might walk in and say, oh, cool, let me check this out. I got a few extra books or, something I'm reading just ended. Let me try this one. And now they've made that additional sale. So sure, they're going to take some hit on things being returned, but on the flip side, they're going to be selling more than they would otherwise.
Even still, as a general PSA, as soon as you know that you want a comic book or a series or a one-shot, let your local comic shop know. Don't wait and assume that they'll get enough copies the day of, no matter what title it is. Just because the sooner they know, the more accurate they can be with their orders, and that's many more people that could get that particular issue. Because let's say Xerxes #1 comes out, there was only 2 subscribers for it. Then suddenly there's 10 people that are like, hey, do you have that book? Now there's not enough copies for everyone.
Right,
Whereas if subscribers had gone on it sooner, it's just better overall. But that's why I always champion the previews catalog. It's an amazing catalog anyway. It's $4 a month. And some shops do discounts or even give it away for free based on if you ordered last month. So previews catalog. If you haven't gotten one yet, let me know on Twitter. I'll give you a breakdown on what that previews catalog is. If you have a local comic shop, if they don't get them, you can order them. You can have them, drop them in your box every month. So just it's my favorite thing to pitch. Like, I don't care. No comic shop gets like a discount or gets like more books for free. There is no benefit at all to people buying the previews catalog, but it's so informative. And I love, like, the more people know about the series that are coming out, the better it is for everyone, the more excited they get as well. And I can talk to them about it like, hey, there's this new issue. Yeah, you hear about it?
I'm waiting for the screen to fade to black and that star comes out. The more you know.
Previews World should pay me. Like, I'm sure I've sold so many of these fucking things. It's worth it.
The Previews Dan. Should be your name.
I would be the face of Previews.
Yep.
If Previews World were to come to me and I'd be like, all right, let's go ahead. I'm going to sell this bitch. Let's do this.
We need like cheesy commercials where they're at the stop like, everybody's real sad and you bust in, whoa, read this previews. And the kids are like, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You're like the Kool-Aid man.
They're not using him anymore. I'll fucking do it.
They're using him. I just saw him in the commercials.
Is he still busting through houses?
No, the kids are like spinning and making him dizzy and he's raining Kool-Aid on them and they're like, ah! And I'm like, those are his guts, kids. Whatever.
Not nearly as fun. So next comic storyline here, next bit of news. According to the ongoing Spider-Man Deadpool comic artist Riley Brown, the movie version of Deadpool is not allowed by Marvel Comics to be drawn into any of the current issues.
So to break this down, we have a quote from him, quote, "In this story, Wade got a part in a Deadpool movie playing as the stunt double. For the scenes on set, I thought it would be fun if he wore the actual movie costume, so that's what I drew. I didn't think anyone would notice or care since the difference is just a couple straps and some knee pads. But they did notice and made me change it back to his typical character design because the lawyers wouldn't allow them to use the movie costume for some reason. So weird. So I had to redraw that Deadpool in all those scenes." End quote.
He is an artist. He is not a lawyer. But what he needs to understand is this this Fox Disney deal won't go through for several years. So until then, they can still go, hey, that's our version of the character. You can't use it. It's super, like, Disney's very careful about that shit. So,
of course.
Yeah, of course they made them redo that. It's just kind of a protect your ass type of thing. And I know a lot of people are like, well, they made the deal. It's like, yeah, it's not finalized, though. They can't just willy-nilly.
You still got 3 years until it gets finalized.
Right, start throwing this shit everywhere. And he could have taken the risk, and I know people have pointed out in the past that the Tobey Maguire version of Spider-Man did show up in Spider-Verse. So I don't know if they got permission ahead of time or not, but if they're that cautious over Deadpool and it's still Fox, I guess in that case it's Sony, so maybe there was some different deal that they worked out with them. But until then, you can't just sneak in the movie versions of a different property.
Okay, but I feel like Spider-Verse was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, it was 3 years ago.
So who cares about Tobey Maguire Spider-Man anymore? But Deadpool, he's still a big thing. People are still like, Deadpool, blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, you're going to watch that much more closely than Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah, especially with Deadpool 2 being out. Something that would blow, I don't know if anyone's brought this up yet, but what if after the Sony deal is done, like in a future Infinity War movie, whatever type of, if they want to do Spider-Verse, bring back Tobey Maguire as an older Spider-Man, like the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, and you can have him married to Mary Jane. You can have Kirsten Dunst come back. Of course.
I was Spider-Man, but now I'm in the Spider-Verse.
You really don't like Tobey.
I really don't like Tobey Maguire.
He helped give us like the 2 best Spidey movies yet.
That's fine. I appreciate what he did to get us to Spider-Man movies, but I don't like him as Spider-Man. It's like I did not like George Clooney as Batman. I appreciate what he did for the franchise to get us where we are, but like bat nipples are not my thing.
No spider nipples either.
Although bats do have nipples. Did you know that?
We think we talked about that 2 weeks ago.
Oh man, Look at me go. Just rehashing school bus knowledge.
So staying on Spider-Man news, during the Marvel C2E2 retailer panel, Marvel editor-in-chief C.B. Cebulski showcased interiors to the upcoming Amazing Spider-Man huge issue number 800.
Ooh, so in the issue, Peter Parker will wear his black Spider-Man outfit, which he'll continue to wear in the Amazing Spider-Man number 1, as written by Nick Spencer and drawn by Ryan Ottley.
Ryan Ottley, who just finished the epic Invincible run, the final issue, did release, and now he's moving over to the Amazing Spider-Man. In the past, Peter has returned to his black suit following a tragedy.
Uh-oh.
So that last happened with the death of Captain America. They had the huge back in black thing, and those issues are going for like $6 to $10 a piece now in good condition. So I don't know what's going to happen in Amazing Spider-Man 799 or 800, but that's the Red Goblin arc, and that's where they've already solicited that something, who will die, who will live, what tragedy will spin out of this. If he's wearing the black suit, Norman Osborn, who is probably the biggest villain of Spider-Man, like people compare him to the Joker with Batman all the time. Someone that is as superpowered as that, who is currently Carnage and the Green Goblin at the same time, is going to take down someone huge in Peter's life. And this is also when Dan Slott gets off the book. So he's going to end this on a huge high and apparently dark note that is going to spill over into ASM number 1.
I wonder, is it going to make me cry? I can't read books that make me cry.
I don't know. I still, for some reason, I thought that J. Jonah Jameson is going to be the one to die, but that's not like, I don't know if that's dark enough to, it's like, I'm going to wear my black suit now. You know what I mean?
J. Jonah Jameson is gone.
So someone close to Peter's life.
It better not be Aunt May.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a big no-no. It's like killing off Alfred. You don't want to do that.
Oh no. I would fight somebody. It's like, that's why he's still alive in Batman Beyond.
But he can. It's also Dan Slott, where it's like, fuck this guy. It's like, he already gets a lot of hate as is. So he could just go off and then do Iron Man right after that.
You think it would be MJ?
No, I don't think they'd kill off MJ. I don't really know. I still think, I don't know. I'm going to go with J. Jonah Jameson. Like, that's going to be what I go with. It's
not going to be J. Jonah Jameson. I mean, if you're right, then, screw me. But I don't think it's going to be J. Jonah Jameson.
The only reason I think that is in one of the previous issues, he is responsible for the Red Goblin knowing who who Spider-Man is. And I feel like there's going to be a point of redemption that will cost him his life. So I feel like that'd be a good way for him to redeem himself, and then he ends up dying, helping out Spider-Man in some way. And then you can have Daily Bugle, like big letters like J. Jonah Jameson. Like, you could even do issues of like the Daily Bugle edition We remember J. Jonah Jameson. They can do all go in many directions.
Yeah, I just don't see Spidey putting on a black suit because J. Jonah Jameson is gone. I feel like that's a little much.
They have a long relationship. Like, I don't know. It'd be, maybe not,
Right.
but that's what I'm going to go with.
J. Jonah Jameson forever in my mind is Tenzin from Korra, Legend of Korra.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I would cry if he died. If Tenzin died, I would cry, but J. Jonah Jameson.
The Amazing Spider-Man number 800 will release on May 30th, and Amazing Spider-Man number 1 will launch sometime in July.
What a time to be alive. We're getting all these, like, big issues. Will they be worth anything someday? I don't know. But to be able to tell our kid, like, yeah, I was around for that.
Right.
Or our grandkids that we might maybe someday get.
Action 1000.
Leo's never getting a girlfriend.
Action Comics number 1000. I'm still, like, by the time this episode releases, it will have released.
Mm-hmm.
But you can tell if you went to your comic shop or if you're going sometime this month when the issue is still new to pick up Action Comics number 1000 from the stands, that's kind of a big deal. It's like, I remember when I picked up number 1000 from the stands, like, even if that book is not, it probably won't ever be, it's going to be like the death of Superman, like worth $20 at most 25 years later type of thing. So if it's that, fine. But it's just such a huge number an issue.
There, yeah.
Not many comics make it to 1,000. Not many will make it to 1,000 issues.
You need to take a picture with it. Selfie. Hashtag 1,000.
Yes, I've got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's also, there's official hashtags for it. I think it's Action 1,000 and the return of the Trunks or something.
Like Trunks from Dragon Ball Z? He did come back in time, so... Wait, so you were getting... just go on a tangent. You're getting all the variants for Action Comic 1000, right?
I've since changed my mind.
Aww.
I'm getting all but like 3 of them.
Okay.
So it's still a good amount.
Because I was going to say you should like lay back on a bed and have them all around you. And
I got to do it like...
be like, ooh.
What's the one with Kevin Spacey? The movie with Kevin Spacey with the rose petals,
American Beauty?
American Beauty. I got American Beauty. It just be naked with Action Comics, like, over my crotch and nipples.
Please don't. Like, Leo will see these pictures someday.
That's what I think about. Like, one year he can listen to the awful shit I say on the podcast and judge me for it.
And someday he'll be able to.
Call me out on it. Like, Dad, you said you used these words back then. It's like, Leo, that was 10 years ago. I was a different person. I might hate myself in 10 years. I don't know.
I could hate myself in 10 years. But I won't, because I'm Palpa Kelly.
Because you're awesome.
Fucking awesome.
So on to Catwoman news for Palpa Kelly. Announced during C2E2 last weekend, writer/artist Joelle Jones and colorist Laura Allred, who recently worked on Silver Surfer, will launch a new Catwoman ongoing comic book launching on July 4th.
This is what dreams are made of. Thrown back to the 90s for all you 90s babies. I am so fucking excited. This is the same day that Batman number 50, the Batman Catwoman wedding issue, releases.
Did you ever think you would say those words?
No.
The Batman Catwoman wedding issue?
Only in my fan fiction dreams. And then every time I'd say them, you'd go, no, Kelly, that's never gonna happen. Batman belongs with Talia, but nobody likes Talia. So
yeah, you can go back several episodes when I was just like, they're not going to get married, Kelly. They're not going to do it.
And what did I say?
They're
gonna
fucking
get married, gonna get married.
DC even created these wedding invitations, like save the date type of things, and they put them up online.
Oh,
really,
I thought
really
they were
cool.
mailing them to people. I was like, you better fucking get me a wedding invitation.
They should send them out to comic shops. Like, that'd be a great...
When is it, July 4th?
It's going to be on July 4th. Yep.
We're dressing for a wedding on July 4th. Can you wear like a suit to the fucking comic shop on that day if you're working? And
I
just
would
be
love
like,
to,
I'm
yeah.
here for the wedding.
Yes.
Oh my God.
That's a great idea.
Oh my God. You should print out those save the dates and hand them out at the shop too and just get a lot of buzz around it. We could get a wedding cake for the store. Oh, so excited. I love weddings.
There's definitely opportunity for comic shops to do something really
like,
special.
Sparkling cider. I call it champagne.
Another great idea.
Oh my God, I'm so good at this.
I'm going to present these all to the owner as my own.
Yeah.
And,
okay, thanks. Well, I mean, we're married. What's,
same thing.
Yours is mine and what's mine is mine, so.
No, I always give you credit.
You're so sweet.
So this is like as excited as you are. So we've got the Batman wedding issue and Catwoman number 1 on July 4th.
Yeah.
Patriotic day for this nation.
Don't fucking care about that. It's Batman Catwoman's wedding.
It's Marvel's releasing Captain America number 1. Like over here, like, hey, we've got Captain America #1 on July 4th. Meanwhile, there's this fucking wedding happening on the side. It's how did that ever overshadow like a 4th of July Captain America issue? Who would have thought that that would happen?
Who cares? I don't care about Captain America. I mean, that's cool if you're a Marvel fan, fine. But you got this wedding and then a Catwoman #1. I need it. I need it all in my life. And her dress is gorgeous.
It is.
Oh,
Joelle Jones designed it herself.
Gorgeous.
There were 3 different designs, and she put them all up, and they were all great. And whatever they went with was a winner. So it ended up really nice. An editor at DC recommends reading the wedding issue before diving into Catwoman #1.
Can I tell you, you better just be glad that this issue is coming out now and not 4 years ago when we were getting married. Because you fucking know we would have had a Batman Catwoman wedding.
Probably.
Hell yeah, I would have had her same dress and never fit in it again after I spent $2,000 to get it custom made. But it would have been great.
I saw a solicitation, I think it was for Batman 51 or 49, but it has Batman and Catwoman kind of diving through the city, right? He kind of has like the sort of Frank Miller lightning bolt thing, and then Catwoman swinging right behind him. Can we just retitle Batman and Robin now? Because she is the new Robin at this point.
Calm down. Robins, except for Damian, are like 90% lame.
So now you have 2.
And Catwoman is not lame.
She is his sidekick, is she not?
She is his partner. Calm down.
Okay, that's what Dick Grayson would say too. Like, I'm your partner. Sure, Dick. Okay,
yeah,
Robin.
But she like legit is. Dick Grayson's just saying that to say that. to feel better about himself.
Did we not establish that anyone that works with Batman is officially a Robin? All the Justice League members are Robins.
I'm just going to take a nap over here.
Let me tell you, you would not fight it if they did rename it like Batman and Robin and just kept it as Batman and Catwoman. All the issues, all the stories.
That's fine. But it still is Catwoman. I will never consider Catwoman a Robin because she's better than that.
There was one, I don't know if you remember Gothopolis. I think it was what it was called. They're in the New 52. This was a series in which everyone kind of lost their memory or forgot it. And in that one, Catwoman does wear a Catwoman outfit, like a hybrid one. She has like a little cape and she's got the oranges and the blacks and the silvers. It's the same cover where Batgirl had the all silver costume. And
I don't ever remember Gothopolis. I don't know who named it Gothopolis.
It wasn't a great story, but it was cool to see all the new different designs after these different members had forgotten who they really were. And I thought it was interesting that Catwoman was kind of like this Robin-ish type of character as far as the design.
Do I remember this? I feel like I don't remember this. There's not even anything on Google. I think you're making it up.
I'm not. I might have the name wrong, but it was something like...
I typed in Catwoman Robin suit.
Type in Catwoman Gothopolis or Batgirl Gothopolis. Maybe that's not it, but...
Gothopolis. Gothopia?
There we go. Gothopia. I was close.
Oh, yeah, I remember this. I remember her suit. Oh, look, here she is making out with Batman.
Is she Robin? Does she have a Robin outfit?
Yes.
She's a fucking Robin.
She's making out with Batman.
She's a goddamn Robin.
Let her do what she wants.
I told you.
Gothopolis. Gothopolis. Gothopia.
Both equally as lame.
Gothopia is better than Gothopolis. But you're not allowed to name anything anymore. You just let Kelli come up with the name.
So on to some moving news. During an Instagram live session, Shazam star Zachary Levi had an excellent response to the submitted question of, quote, why the crap suit?
This is a great response. I was so proud of him. So I am going to try and get through this long-ass quote without messing anything up.
You going for it, or do you want me to take it?
I mean, if you want to take it, that's up to you.
I don't mind either way. If you're up for it, go for it.
We'll try. I apologize in advance, Broquettes. Quote, wow. Okay, well, I don't think it's a crap suit. I think my suit is fucking bomb, to be perfectly honest. I know that there hasn't been an officially released photo yet, but there have been incredibly high-quality photos that have been released. And I think any of you people out there who are still hung up on what the suit looks like are just wanting to be angry for angry's sake. I think you are very insecure. You probably are dealing with some stuff in your own life, and you feel a little powerless, and I'm sorry that you do. Wherever you're at and whatever you're going through, I'm sorry that you're going through that. But I do think you should probably take a second and reflect on why you're as negative as you are about maybe anything in life, and then relook at that suit and go, actually, hey, you know what? They're trying really hard to make something that's awesome and that pleases a lot of different people. Because Captain Marvel's been around for a really long time and has had a whole bunch of different iterations of suits. So you can't win them all, but you can at least hope that people will give you a fair shake, end quote. Damn, I did good.
You did good, and Zachary did good.
He did great.
Do you think it's a little... I know people are saying that he's kind of looking down type of thing on these haters, but it's like, who's really going to defend people that are criticized? This suit, like, I get it. I had some broquettes that even said, like, the suit looks like pajamas. And one thing is...
most superhero suits look like
pajamas.
Well,
that's the thing I exactly pointed out.
Okay.
It's like, look at this Alex Ross art. Look at the classic Shazam suit. It is exactly like it. And it's like, do you want armored plating like the fucking Dark Knight or Injustice? Or do you want... it's already going to be a lighter movie, so you go for the classic look.
The thing you have to keep in mind about Shazam, too, is he's a fucking 13-year-old. Like, he may look like an adult, but Zachary Levi is playing a 13-year-old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wouldn't look right with armored plating, fucking muscle-defined shit. No, you got to go with the classic suit, and it's a no-win situation. If they go with something newer, the classic fans are going to be upset. And if they go with something classic, people are now saying it looks like pajamas. It's like, right, that's what the fucking... You couldn't get closer to the goddamn outfit. You could not get closer, and yet it's still not good enough.
Of course not. Of course not. I do applaud him for recognizing and pointing out, even though I probably wouldn't point it out myself, but pointing out, like, the reason you're negative is because you have other stuff going on in your life. And I'm sorry that you have that. But that's not a reason to be negative about this. And, I mean, that's really what the internet has become. You know, you're hiding behind a computer screen, you're pissed off about something, and you're taking it out on other people.
Shazam is set to release next year on April 5th, so we are less than a year away from the fucking Shazam movie. Can't fucking wait.
Shazam!
It's not on the show notes, so let's hate on the Teen Titans look on the TV show.
I'm mad about things in my life, so I'm going to hate on this.
Yeah, I mean, quick comment on them. If you missed it, Beast Boy has green highlighted hair. Starfire has orange highlighted hair. No orange skin. No green skin for Beast Boy. Raven looks okay. She's got the kind of paler look. She's probably looking the best out of the bunch. But so far, it does look like what people were afraid it was going to be and not a full production. And I'm sure that's a budget thing.
Right.
You can't have Beast Boy transforming all the time. You're not going to see that. It's going to be like Animorphs probably, where he hides behind. He's walking and then a pillar shows up to block the screen. And then like a circus animal that's trained shows up on the other side. Not even green probably. I don't know. So it doesn't look great. I will admit I'm not a fan of the how they went and what direction they went in. And one of the things that people have pointed out too, there was one cosplayer who is black, and she's like, you can make this work. It has nothing to do with the features. Look, and she pointed to her cosplay, and that's one thing that people are like, it has nothing to do with the race. They made no effort, or even Beast Boy's race.
Exactly.
They made no effort to make it look sort of like the comic book character. They changed the hair, and that's it. And who knows? These are set photos. I'm done judging anything early like that because I've been wrong so many times. And like I told, it might have been, I got to pull up the Twitter name, but I hope that the costumes and the designs are the worst part of the show. I hope it's written extremely well that I can just go, you know what? The show's written well and the stories are very compelling. I don't care about the fucking makeup job or how they look. I hope that ends up being the case. And if it's not, or maybe it ends up looking better in the final product, who knows? But that's my own reaction to it. What about you?
No, I'm the same way. Like you said, we've been wrong so many times. My initial reaction to things is always, oh, that's shitty. And then I'm like, but I gotta slow down. I'm not seeing the final product. I'm not seeing, what they're really putting forth. But yeah, it feels like they just didn't try. Even Starfire's hair, it doesn't look right. I mean, go ahead and leave her skin tone if that's what you want to do. I have no problem with that. But the hair is still the wrong color. Mm-hmm. It's like somebody just said, oh, I read that Starfire has bright red hair. Let's give her this. The hair doesn't look natural. It doesn't look anything. I mean, as natural as it can look, obviously. But it doesn't look like it fit. Beast Boy, I guess that I'm okay with his look. I get that he's not green, but you're trying to modernize it. You're trying to make it more realistic. So I'm not as mad about his as I am for Starfire. But what I don't feel like these creators are looking at, and maybe they are, and I don't know, is how much people genuinely love the Teen Titans. Mm-hmm. And, it came from the cartoon. We've seen it in all the movies. these are characters that I feel like more fans really, really, really care about than some other things that you might see. And I feel like they don't have the fans in mind when they're creating these things and saying, oh, this is super nostalgia for people. You know, this is characters that they really relate to. We need to keep the same spirit of them. And maybe we see that in the writing again, like you mentioned, but from first appearances, it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, and I pulled up the Brocat. It was Alpha Mega Zulu, who is huge on YouTube as well. So that's who I was kind of tweeting back and forth with. And the one thing, there is a difference between criticizing what ended up coming out of the Teen Titans so far and then what we got in Shazam, which is like, how much closer do you want to get to the look of Shazam? And as opposed to like, people are doing like expectations versus reality memes on it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can do that with the look of the Teen Titans. You can't really do that with Shazam because they'll look the fucking same. So
yeah, it's exactly the same thing. But we're also talking about it differently, and I don't like the way this looks, but you can't really say anything until you see it. I may not like the way. Right. You might see more things in Shazam post-production. Calm down. Don't hate just to hate.
Moving along here with rumors of Ben Affleck leaving Batman still out there, because that's what these bloggers are going to keep trying to get clicks on.
Of course.
Jake Gyllenhaal, the rumored replacement, was asked directly about it by CNA Lifestyle.
He said, quote, "Wow, that's a very difficult question. To answer that question, no." End quote.
He's probably tired of this shit too.
Probably.
People constantly asking him, like, are you going to be Batman?
Why do people want Gyllenhaals in all the Batman movies?
There was a rumor that he was either up for Batman or he had auditioned for Batman or Matt Reeves had mentioned him being as Batman. I'm not sure where these bloggers will come up with different ways to twist certain words or get early interviews to get that clickbait. And suddenly that becomes, the news story. It's fake news, everyone. It really is. And now, like, Jake Gyllenhaal has to get on this and say, no, guys, Jesus, fuck, why do I have to say anything? Ben Affleck, when he was at San Diego Comic-Con last year, I think, where he was like, let me be clear about this, being Batman's the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
And even now, people are still like, I don't know, he might leave.
But you want to know why that is? Because it's fucking DC. If this was Marvel and the one Marvel actor said, nope, I'm still here, then they'd all be like, oh, yes, he's still there.
Well, people have pointed out that in the Aquaman reshoots, they've added a new character and filmed new scenes with it. And bloggers went to fucking town about how unstable the movie and cinema universe was, that it was a move because of what happened in Justice League.
I'm sorry, have they written movies? Have they? Okay, anyway.
Meanwhile, in the Deadpool 2 reshoots, they've also done something, I think, even better, even greater than what Aquaman did, and not a fucking chirp out of any of it.
In the sense of more expansive.
Correct.
Okay.
Like the addition of jokes and new scenes and everything. So more of what people wanted out of Deadpool 1, but no, that doesn't get the clicks. Bloggers aren't going to write about it.
No.
The negative opinion on what's already struggling is what gets the most attention.
Of course.
I mean, it's blatant. I don't know what you call that, a double standard or whatever, but this is why I guess people are like, DC fans are always so defensive. It's like, this is exactly why.
We have to be defensive. We have to be. I get in arguments with people at work all the time about DC versus Marvel movies. All the time. And I pretty much have to end them by saying, I'm sorry I like different things out of my... Like, I shouldn't be sorry that I don't like your movies. But I'm sorry that it makes you upset that I like different movies than you. People
need confirmation that everyone must like the same thing they do.
And guess what? I don't. And I'm the first one to jump in there. Oh, guess what? That was boring.
Was it Doctor Strange?
Yes, it was.
Put my kids to sleep with that shit.
You sure did.
Moving along here on the solo Batman movie, actually. According to an insider at The Wrap, the Matt Reeves Batman solo will not involve Jason Todd.
So before a complete script overhaul, Deathstroke was lined up to be the main villain in the film.
And there is currently no official release date for the Batman. And now that a particular brocat, Brian, shout out Brian, a huge Patreon backer, huge friend, he has finally seen Justice League. I can finally talk about the post-credit scene aside from the review.
Right.
And now I can say, if you haven't seen Justice League, you've had a long time to see it.
Long-ass time.
So now the spoiler to that post-credit scene, although maybe it won't mean anything now that Deathstroke is no longer maybe the main villain in his solo Batman movie with a complete script rehaul. Deathstroke being in that final post-credit scene, I don't know if we've talked about it yet, but weeks and months leading up to Justice League, remember I kept reminding people, don't forget, Deathstroke is still in this shit, so he might be in the final fight. Deathstroke is still in the movie. Don't forget, they shot this shit. They're not even filming Batman yet. That test footage was for Justice League. He's going to be in the movie. Mm-hmm. Then I sit there and I see the movie and I'm like, oh shit, that was the post-credits scene. So I stayed quiet about it for a long time, because I potentially ruined that shit. Like, oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Daniel kept reminding us that Deathstroke is in this movie, and that's the post-credit scene, which wasn't originally supposed to be the post-credit scene.
I fucking forgot, so you didn't ruin it for me. I want Brian to tweet you now, like, I didn't see the post-credit scene, asshole.
I guess the original post-credit scene from early, what do they call them, early viewers, the early screenings, was that 2 Green Lanterns were to visit Bruce at his home, and it was Tomar Ray and Kilowog. But instead, they cut that. I don't know if it has to do with what their plans are for the future, but instead they made it that scene with Deathstroke and Lex Luthor. And even that was supposed to be even longer, where they filmed like scenes of him actually breaking Lex out, and there was some action in there. But that's all gone, of course, with the Warner Brothers coming down on Snyder's cut. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I don't know what it could be. Like, that was my one guess. Like, if they continued the vision of what's, I guess, Zack Snyder put together, and that's what he gets credit for Wonder Woman as well, if you see the movie, for story plots. So there's obviously a bigger vision to it. I don't know if Zach's coming back. My friend Clayton, who's going to be on next week, he says he thinks that they're going to bring back Snyder, and I think they'd be smart to, with the many fans that they've already lost, like DC hardcore fans like us that are like, no, come on, bring back Snyder. We were liking what he was doing, and you changed it and perverted it for Justice League. Who do you think could be the villain then, if it's not Jason Todd? Because that was my bet on the solo Batman film.
I don't even know. The thing about Batman is you have so many options. You have so many. I hope it's Catwoman and they fall in love and they get married. Okay, you have so many options with Batman villains, and you have so many great ones. It would be cool to see something like the Mad Hatter. I think there's a lot that you could do there, or the Riddler.
Insert any villain here, and you can do the Sewer King, and I'd be like, fuck yes, I'm gonna watch that movie.
Breaking giant crocodile's jaws.
You can do Kite Man. Do the recent one from DC Rebirth. Done. Perfect movie.
That was really good. You could do a lot of different things. It would be really cool to see a gang war in Gotham. I mean, I don't think they'd necessarily do the Joker, but to have like Riddler versus somebody.
Why not do the War of Joke and Riddles?
Well, yeah, but I don't think they do the Joker, is what I'm saying. I think the Joker's too high profile. They're going to want to do a solo movie with him being the villain, as opposed to, a gang war between them.
Mm-hmm. So maybe the Penguin versus the Riddler?
That would be really cool. Because I think if you put Joker in there, then you're going to have to put Harley, which is cool and going to sell tickets. But then, I don't know. I think it's just too much. It would get muddled very easily.
Well, I don't know whatever happened to that casting with the Olaf from Frozen. I don't know the actor's name, but he was taking pictures with Jeff Johns. He had a Batman Adventures trade paperback which featured the Penguin. So people immediately said that's going to be the Penguin. He's going to be the Penguin in the new Batman movie. But now that script is gone. Ever since then, after that picture, Jeff Johns has been he has a smaller position now in the DC cinematic universe. So I don't think he's even in this anymore. I don't really know if they're keeping him on as Penguin. Maybe it will be the Penguin as the main villain.
Why is he just playing like cold characters?
It fits, sure. Like he's typecast now after
he is,
Frozen.
Yes, that's it. That would be awesome. Yes, I would love to see Riddler and Penguin against each other in like a gang war, and Batman's got to stop them. But then you reach that morality, like, okay, I got to team up with one of them to take the other one down. Who's the biggest thing? Then he falls in love with Catwoman and marries her.
You and that Batman Catwoman, you're already getting it. Be happy. I'm never going to get a Talia Batman wedding issue.
Hell no.
It's never going to happen.
You know why? Because Talia sucks.
She does not suck.
She's a terrible mother.
She's
a terrible mother.
Damien would not be what he is today if it weren't for Talia.
That's
and Damien
true.
is the greatest Robin of all time. Not a terrible mother.
Damien is a very damaged person.
So is Batman, and he fits perfectly with the Bat family.
Yeah. She's a terrible mother. She tries to kill her son, like on the reg.
She wouldn't really kill him, except for that one time in Batman
she really
Inc.
killed
But it was
him.
actually his clone, so not really her.
Oh my god.
I don't think she'd directly kill him.
She's I don't know how you can still support her
because of
all this.
Because of Batman the animated series. That's all. It all goes right back to my childhood, to that 2-part episode where Batman kisses her on the fucking sunrise in the Sahara Desert or wherever the fuck they were. After poor Ra's al Ghul had to die. Save Ra's al Ghul, Batman. Save him in Batman Begins too. Fucking bullshit. Find a way. Save him. He made it back, though. It's the Lazarus Pit. That is our news, though, for today's episode. Let's head into the Brocat block, which goes into the backgrounds of what's been going on with Kelli and I. Do you have a theme song? We don't have an official one for the Brocat block because I've left it to you.
You still haven't picked
I haven't
one?
hired anyone because I've left it to you because I've left that. This is Kelli's thing. And I'm sure the Brocats enjoy your whatever theme you come up with that episode. You can reuse something else. I don't care. Have something. We didn't have it last time either.
Listen, you're right. You're right. I mean, the only one that I got like in my back pocket is dong 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 dong. But I feel like I want to redo like the Sailor Moon theme song and the Magic School Bus.
You're usually pretty good at replacing lyrics and retheming them.
I'm fantastic, but not on 6 months of no sleep. Especially how this last week has been. But then like I could get to the end and be like, they are the ones on the Brocat block. Or like something cool. Or School Bus is, I don't know.
Heading to the block and we are flying through the news.
Yes, sure. Just don't quit your day job.
So we had the April Fool's prank on Twitter, which massively backfired on us. Not because the more savvy brocats were like, that's bullshit, April Fool's, nice try. Which I fooled everyone, I'm going to say, just like I said at the end of the night.
Sure.
But because we lost a shit ton of followers, over the years, we've accumulated a lot of DC fans. And you'll point out why they're not. It's like, it'll be fine that you lost them. But what I did for April Fool's is I changed our theme to a big Marvel Studios banner. I changed our logo and recolored it into Marvel colors and put a big Marvel logo in the background. And then all throughout the day, like almost every hour on the hour, it was pro MCU tweets and slamming DC, pretty much doing what most people are doing anyway, but doing it for what was then named Reasons I'm Marvel. And that was the new podcast name. I put it up on Instagram and saying, this is going to be the new podcast now. We're just going to cover MCU because that's what people like, and we're going to grow even faster now. And that was the joke. And then every fucking hour, a tweet went out like quoting Doctor Strange and how clever that was, and quoting how much I love the Avengers, and where's your movie cinematic universe and revolution, DC? It all started with Iron Man.
You should have put something like, I watch Doctor Strange every night. It's a great movie to fall asleep to.
I was trying to be legit with this thing.
Okay.
So all of the tweets, and then I just saw my count like drop and drop, and this was all from the DC fans that we've gained of like, we've talked about these movies. I've tweeted about these movies, but you pointed out that none of these are probably listeners anyway, because they would know that we're fucking around, that we're just messing around.
Of course, they would look at the date and be like, oh, haha, April Fool's.
So instead they're like, when the fuck did I follow Reasons I'm Marvel? Unfollow. I'm like, God damn it. So we just dropped a shit ton. Backfired in that way. We kept all of our core listeners, so I guess it doesn't really matter, but I was like, shit, now I got to rebuild some.
They're not listeners anyway. I don't see the big thing about, I got the most followers. I don't know. I'm not the Twitter person, so.
I like my retweets. That's all I'm saying.
No, I did nothing for April Fool's. Nobody did anything for April Fool's. I went to work and it was just normal
People went
day.
to church. It was Easter.
Yes, people went to church for April Fool's. Leo wore a cute little outfit.
What did he wear?
He had on a little collared shirt.
That's nice.
It was cute. I ate a lot of chocolate for
so did I.
April Fool's. Stuff was good.
Easter candy left over at the comic store. I'm like, all right, it's here. I'm just going to eat it. I also went to C2E2, if you haven't seen on Instagram, this past week. And I only attended on Friday. Saturday's madness, of course, just like we don't attend MegaCon on a Saturday. But I actually got some artists to draw on Leo's comic cover. If you're a new listener, what Kelli and I did is we got his footprint. He's our newborn baby. We got his footprint done on a blank cover for Batman the Shadow. It was like the Batman cover that I had that was blank at the time. So we got his little footprint on there. And then my plan was to put a bunch of, like a collage of different Batman characters on the comic itself, or different versions of Batman is what I ended up going with. And it all started with Jim Lee. There was a signing at a local comic shop. And Jim Lee actually colored his thumb in Sharpie, did like his thumbprint, just like Leo's footprint, and then made a Batman out of it and signed it. Amazing.
Oh,
Loved
so
it.
cool.
So when I went to C2E2, I saw C2E2, by the way, has some of the greatest fucking comic artists and comic guests that I've ever seen at any convention. Their main focus, as we said a few weeks ago, is comics, and it remained that fucking way. Normally you go to Artist Alley, let's say MegaCon, MegaCon's our second favorite convention. I love it. But the pros are mixed in with the local artists or the smaller artists. Like, I could get a booth there and say I'm a local artist and start drawing things. And that's no knock on MegaCon. I think it's more of just them not trying to get the bigger names. That's not their focus. Their focus is media. So they just kind of let the artist alley as kind of an afterburner type of thing. But if you're a local artist or a small up and coming artist, you probably can't get into C2E2 because every fucking member of Artist Alley was someone. It was Dan Parent. It was Ray Fox. It was someone big. It was Tom King. It was Scotty Young.
Was there?
Yeah, he had a massive fucking line.
Dude, you didn't go talk to Tom King for me?
No, not in that huge line. What was I going to say? Like, it should have been Talia Tom. Like,
no, you're going to go see Tom King and you're going to put me on the phone and I'm going to say, Tom King, thank you for making my dreams come true. And he's going to say, you're welcome, Kelly. I did it just for you. And I'm like, you're my guy, Tom. And then we would have been bros.
You can tweet him. You know, he checks Twitter every fucking day. You have it right in your pocket. You can talk to Tom King anytime you want.
Is he going to respond to me?
Probably.
Really?
Oh, yeah. He's
so if I
always
tweet him
responding.
and I'm like, Tom King, you're my bro.
I'll take a video of you saying that, and I bet you he'll retweet it. He'll retweet it, and you'll get more followers than the reasons I'm broke.
Well, yeah, because you lost all those. So they'll start following me instead.
They're like, she likes DC. I'm like, no, wait, it was a joke.
And I'll be like, it wasn't a joke, guys.
I still get some favorites on him, and I was like, hey, just kidding. Just kidding. And some people are like, yeah, WB sucks. I'm like, hey, it was a joke.
It was April Fool's, you fools.
Get into long, week-long arguments with some people. But I took this custom cover, and I got some regular commissions. I got Philip Moy did a Holiday Harley Quinn that I picked up on there. Ray Fox, I commissioned him for a Daphne commission on the Scooby-Doo Apocalypse #1. And he did a gorgeous watercolor piece where a ghost is kind of slipping by her and she's turning around. It came out great. So he's worked on Batman Eternal in the past. He's probably done the most issues of that in his career as far as like one ongoing series.
Oh.
He did a Leonardo as Batman like head on the cover itself. It's like perfect. Like that's what I asked him. I saw it on his thing and I'm like, oh, that's fucking perfect. Leonardo's Batman. Can you do the little head? And he's like, yeah, that's free. Don't worry about it. Also, Art Baltazar, who's done Tiny Titans. I always see Art and Franco. And he did an Ace the Bat Hound. He needed to have Ace on there. And I was like, hey, Art, if you want to do it on the back, that's fine. Wherever you find more room. He's like, no, I want to be by the baby. So he did it like right next to the little foot. And I think every artist was like, I want to be right. But every one of them did him on the front. They didn't want to be in the back. No. So we might have to get his little hand on the back or something. Also, Franco, as I mentioned, worked on Superman Family Adventures, which we absolutely loved. He did Batman Red Sun. He did also free on the cover itself. And finally, Joe Quinones, who worked on Howard the Duck, which we were reading for a little bit, worked on, I think he did some covers for Captain Marvel, might have done a few for Batgirl, but the biggest thing is Howard the Duck, which we loved. He did a Batman as well on the cover, so a Batman silhouette on it. And I got a couple of stickers from him. Like, all of them did them for free. So I was like, yeah, let me get a print. Let me get some stickers.
Right.
Like, it was all really nice of them to do. And they did it right then and there. Like, whatever commissions they had, they just dropped it in. They did a little thing for Leo, which they didn't have to do.
Right.
So everyone was absolutely nice and amazing. And he really has, like, a really good start on this custom cover that I'm going to give to him when he's old enough to, like, appreciate the commissions and all that. So there's still plenty of room on the front, I think probably for 4 more Batmans, and then the back will be the next part of it. So yeah, I had some great experiences with these comic professionals now. Like, I'll always be like, no matter what Joe Quinones or any of them ever say, I'll be like, you leave them alone. They are great people. Defend them for whatever they do in some way. I'll be their PR person from now until the end of time.
I want Dustin Wynn on that cover.
When I got the C2E2 survey this year, they asked you, what 3 guests would you like to have for 2019? First one was Dustin Wynn. Second one was Ty Templeton. Third was Bruce Timm.
All right, perfect. Get all of them. Wait in that line all weekend. I don't care. Get them all.
I love that our Baltazar once again recognized me this year. That was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
That's something else that Riggs said. He's like, some of these guys recognize you again. I'm like, yep, I guess so. Like it's just like Riggs. I talk to them on Twitter every now and again, and they recognize the shirt. They recognize sometimes I take selfies. So I think Dustin was the one who most immediately was like, "Hey, I know that guy."
Yeah,
that was the first time I ever met him.
I'm still waiting to meet
Where's
him.
Kelly?
You tell Dustin when he needs to come to Florida.
You tell MegaCon to invite him and pay for him to come out to Florida.
Can I pay for him to come out to Florida?
So that was my C2. Do you have any questions about my thing at C2E2?
I know. I hope you had a great time. I was home with our teething child. That is how I spent my week while you're at C2E2. We got two little twofers. Two little twofers.
Little sharp tooth.
Yeah, they're little sharp twofers. He's just been a fussy baby, but it was nice. I told my boss, "Oh, nobody can watch my kid. I got to take off time too." So even though I wasn't away with you, and it sounds like it was so much fun, in some year I will eventually make it up to C2E2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got to be home with a little man, and we got to have fun, and we got to snuggle and just spend mommy baby time, because he's not going to be this age forever.
Right, that's true.
Soon he's going to be grown up. And
when I came back for the week, and I know Brocat, new listeners are like, you're talking about your baby. Brocat's longtime listeners always ask, like, how's Leo? How's he doing? And when I came back from being away for a week, it was, he grew so much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's how I know it's like the most obvious statement in the world. Like, babies grow up quick. And it's like, yeah, but you really notice it after 1 week.
Of course.
In 1 week, he grew 2 teeth, and he started saying, like, dot, dot, doo, doo. Like, he's now speaking way more.
Mm-hmm.
And his biggest thing is dot, 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 dot. I'm like, all right, you know, you're learning quickly. At today's doctor's appointment, the doctor said, oh, he's already sitting up by himself without help of, like, falling over every now and again. It's like, he's our son. Like, he's got great genetics. Looks almost
He's
exactly
perfect.
almost exactly like me as a baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, he's sitting up. Well, he's not really growing in tallness. I'm like, well, neither did I. So
I'm still short, Zach.
So perfect. He nailed it.
But yes, he got a great checkup at his doctor's appointment. He hasn't been sick or ran a fever like his whole life so far. So I consider that a win.
Yeah.
But he did have to get his vaccinations, which is always sad. But he was a champ. Like, they gave it to him, and like, he cried, and then it wasn't that long, and then he was like got over it.
Yeah, he got over it quicker than ever, I
Mhm.
think. So I don't know. This was probably the best so far, like, vaccination experience we've had.
Right.
We'll see what happens in the next 2 or 3 or whatever.
3 months is the next one. But yeah, he's doing great. He's learning so much, and I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a rant on my kid, but I've said this before. I love watching him learn, because it's like rediscovering these things. To
Mhm.
him, the little seal on a jar is the coolest thing ever. Like, he takes it and he studies it, or a regular ball is super cool, and he's picking it up and he's looking at it and dropping it to see what happens, and it's like, oh wow, this is what life is like. You know, he just sits outside and looks at the trees, and I am able to take that time and relax. And you know, in society and life today, it's so easy to be attached to our phones, because there's always something going on. There's
Yes.
always something to see, and he allows me to take a step away from that and sit outside and enjoy our nice 80-degree weather while you had snow up in Chicago.
Oh my God. Yeah. I did not miss snow, by the way. I haven't seen snow in years, and I would have liked to keep it that fucking way. Like, I know my Clayton was like, hey, Dan, snow. And I looked, I'm like, fuck snow. Like, I could have, if I flicked off snow, I can't stand snow. I haven't been away from long away from it enough to be like, oh, this is kind of nice. And I never will be. It's not going to happen.
All right.
Not going to happen. So, the last thing I do want to say on the Brocat block, before we head into our Patreon, which we do have a pretty big announcement in case you missed it.
Ooh.
I did record an episode with Clayton and Riggs, two of my best friends. I've known them for many years, and I recorded an episode up there at C2E2 this year, and I wasn't able to record one last year. Mr. Riggs, you haven't heard since Trivia Time with Mr. Riggs, but I was able to get him on another episode. So that episode will release next week, and that'll give us a week to kind of catch up on me being gone for a week, so catch up on the house chores
Boy.
and Leonardo, and you know, when you're raising a baby by yourself, which you did for that week, you don't really have, and I know it too, when I watch them by myself, you don't have time to clean or do anything.
There's
like,
not
just
time
watch
for
them.
anything.
So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we're going to take that week to kind of reset and get everything back. So that episode will release. Next week won't be a traditional episode, but I hope you do enjoy it. I know a lot of you, especially like Mr. Riggs. So he's a genius in his own right, and everyone knows it. People quote me like Riggs quotes, and it's like, yeah, I got to have him back on. So that'll release next week. Let's head into our Patreon shout outs for the week.
We have 4 shout outs this week. I can't count. The first one goes out to Kat on Instagram. She's at Main Street Cat.
She agreed with our review of the new Harley Quinn Archer statue. She was saying,
beautiful statue. Wait,
no,
which one?
the
old
Archer one,
Oh,
the one
no,
with
no, no.
the heart. You're thinking of the new one.
Yeah. Yes.
It seems like a lot of people were like, yeah, it's not a great statue. So
Nope.
It's probably, like I said on the unboxing, our first negative review of one of these statues, and it's one of those, our first case where it came out and it's like, oh shit, this doesn't look as good as what it looked like on the previous catalog.
Right.
And a lot of people say like, yeah, normally those things don't look as good. It's like, you don't understand, like these statues do though. DC Collectibles does do a good job in general. You get what shows up in the previous catalog, and in this case it didn't work. So Archer, his artwork is so like anime-ish, and it doesn't translate as well. Beautiful artwork. It'll stand all day as like some of the best comic artwork you will find, but it does not translate as well into figurines or statues in this case.
Our next shout out goes out to Kyle. His Twitter is @KyleInge.
He actually finished Batman The Long Halloween last month for the very first time.
I haven't read that in years.
Some of the best Batman work that it's one of those like top 5, top 10 comics you should read, or top 10 story arcs you should read. And Long Halloween is what some inspiration from The Dark Knight was taken from, and it's big on Two-Face, of course. So great that he read it, and it should be in every Bat fan's collection.
Next up, we have Robin, whose Twitter and Instagram account is @RobinConcepts.
He recently upped his Patreon pledge and posted more artwork on his Instagram. So if you enjoy digital or traditional artwork, make sure to follow Robin on both Twitter and Instagram under @RobinConcepts.
And finally, we have Matt, whose Twitter is @MrForklift.
He's also been sharing on Discord, but he's put up some great National Geographic and Smithsonian articles on Twitter, which highlight some of the latest space discoveries, and also how honeybee combs on certain species of them come out to like these super intricate beehives, as opposed to like the big circle, like these kind of flowery looking hives. And I'm like, this is nice. I can look at this on my phone and never want to observe one in person, but it's like, all right, bees. Like that's the difference between honeybees and wasps. Like they'll create, not only are they great for crops, but they create these beautiful, certain ones create these beautiful hives, whereas wasps are just fucking assholes. I saw that this comment section where it's like, well, they eat these certain kind of flies and they kill caterpillars that are annoying. It's like, fuck you, caterpillars are not annoying. Even if you're a farmer, it's like, well, you'll be a butterfly one day.
You'll destroy my crops, but you'll be a butterfly.
The trade-off still is not greater to like, oh, wasps kill those guys. It's like, fuck off. Get rid of wasps.
So this is how much I love you. I respect your dislike for bees, so I have not planted any flowers in our backyard. I really want, like I was researching butterfly flowers so we could have a lot of butterflies in the yard. And really I would love to do something to save the bees, because bees are dying off at an alarming rate. And they're
actually on the upswing now.
Are they really? Good. Well, I would still love to do something to contribute to that. But because of your dislike for bees, I have not done it.
If we ever get a bigger backyard, you're more than welcome to put them off in. If you want to actually buy another property miles from me and just have like a beehive there, great. Go for it.
I'll just live on the property miles from you?
No, you don't have to live there. Just check on them every now and again.
Every once in a while, I'll be like, oh, yep, there are the bees. Have you seen, you would hate this, they have wall art that's a fucking beehive. Like a legit working beehive.
Yeah, fuck that. And I have nothing huge against bees. Again, I'm afraid of them, but not as much as asshole wasps, like just dicks. Like I know I see some honey people. I don't know what you call those guys. Well, they'll just dig their hand. They'll dig their hand to the bees, and it's like, yep, here they are, and they won't sting them. You try to do that with a wasp, fuck that. Yeah, you're fucking dead.
Speaking of bees and fears of things, I had my first real mom moment. I mean, like mom mode moment, I guess. I am terrified of spiders. I don't fucking care how big the spider is. I am terrified. And while you were gone, I was sitting on the floor playing with Leo. He's playing with his toy, and a fucking spider crawls past. And I'm like, oh my God, it's a spider. But then I see my little boy, and I don't even think about it. I just...
With your hand?
No, I mean, I had like a piece of plastic.
That's still big,
and I was like,
because you don't do that.
I don't do that. I usually pick up and leave. I'm like, if you're hiding, then I...
burn the house.
Right, exactly. But fucking kill that spider. I was like, nah, that guy's not going to get my baby.
Your love of Leo is greater than your fear of spiders.
My love of Leo is greater than my fear of like everything.
I am sad to hear that the spider had to die, because I do like spiders, but we don't have a spider catcher, so until then, I guess.
I mean, we can buy a spider catcher.
I do want to buy a spider catcher. I'd rather put them outside, and
you can
they'll catch wasps and roaches and shit.
I mean, if that's what you
way
want
better.
To do. Go ahead.
So that does it for...
My God. You just reminded me of another story that I haven't told you yet.
Right.
Oh my god. Is my roach story. Did I tell you my roach story?
No, we're catching up on a week, by the way,
Okay,
Brokettes. Like,
yes.
I just flew in yesterday, so...
Yes, I haven't been able to speak to him because we've been taking care of the baby and shots and okay, my roach story. So, because you were gone, Leo and I went to stay with my parents for a few days because I just felt safer than being in a big house by yourself, because I'd lay in bed at night and I'm like, what am I going to do if somebody breaks in, and thinking of all these contingency plans, freaking myself.
Oh, I do the same thing.
Yeah. So I went and stayed with my parents, and my dad was out of town too. My parents have a big king size bed. So it was me, my mom, and Leo all sleeping in this king size bed. Well, the sound of the flushing toilet wakes up Leo. So I went to the other bathroom on the other side of the house. And I'm in there, and there's 2 rolls of toilet paper, right? And there's a big-ass roach on one of them. And I'm like, I'm not getting near this roach. That's what I do. No, it's not harming my kid. That roach can stay there and live another day, right?
You're more scared of those than spiders, aren't you?
I am pretty fucking scared of roaches, too. I'm scared of both of them. So there's this other roll of toilet paper. So I was like, that's fine. I'll use this roll of toilet paper. They're both sitting on the counter. But I'm going to take off the top layer just in case the roach was crawling on it, right? Because that's fucking disgusting. I don't want anything to do with that. But I really got to pee. So... so I stick my hand in it to pull off the top layer. You know, like you stick your finger in the middle and you go, and it unrolls real fast. There's a fucking roach inside the roll of the toilet paper, and I touched it with my fucking hand. But everybody's asleep, so I can't scream. So like I throw it on the ground, and I'm like, ah!
Yep, you do that. Yep.
Oh, it was so gross. I can still, and then I couldn't sleep for like 2 more hours because I could still feel them on my hands.
That's awful. Like you probably washed your hands for a whole minute.
Hell yeah. Of course I did. Oh man, it was so disgusting.
That's disgusting.
So gross. And my mom keeps trying to get me to buy their house, and so I told her the next morning, I'm like, Mom, I'm never buying your house. You just burn it down. Yeah,
if you live in Florida, it's not a thing of cleanliness. They're palmetto bugs.
Palmetto
really,
bugs,
but
yes.
They're in the roach family, so they're giant. To any northerner like me, I'm like, you guys have giant, disgusting fucking roaches. But now I realize, like, oh, they live in trees and shit. They're just a thing now, just like pill bugs, I guess, up north. I still hate them.
Bugs, though.
I like pill bugs too, but this is Florida's pill bug.
Except they're giant and fucking disgusting. But okay, whatever.
I'm glad you, as a Floridian, though, are still like, they're still disgusting animals.
They are.
So it's not just the northern
thing. They're super creepy. Like, and the thing is, again, my parents are not unclean, but they have a lot of big trees in their yard. There's at least 4 big trees in their yard.
And that's where they live.
Right, that's where they live. So yes, they find their way into the house because there's dog food out and there's other stuff that they can get. So growing up, like, one of these would scurry across my foot like once a month at least. I fucking hate these things.
So, Patreon, if you would like your Patreon shout for as little as $1 a month, if you feel like you are getting 25 cents of entertainment or information per episode, head on over to patreon.com/thereasonsimbroke. There is a link in today's description. In today's episode, there's a link at thereasonsimbroke.com. If you want to head straight there, you will find a link at the very bottom of the page. But for a single dollar, you get your shout out every single month. You get the podcast early every single week. And now we have exclusive Brokehead Core, limited to 100 pieces, Brokehead Core pins. These are silver enamel, whatever you want to call it, metal pins that we got from Mind's Eye Creative. We ordered through them, and there's only 100 of them, and it's got the Brokehead Core logo. If you haven't seen the announcement on Patreon, you're hearing it right now. All Patreon backers that have backed us for at least 1 year, no matter what the level is, whether it's $1, $15, or $20, no matter what it is, after a year, you are getting, and they're shipping out next week, a free Brokehead Core pin. You get that for free for backing us for a year. So that's another perk, another way in which we wanted to help, the value of becoming a Patreon member. If you want to purchase additional pins, or if you don't want to wait for the 1 year and you don't want to back us on Patreon, but you want to get a pin now, you can head on over to thereasonsimbroke.com, click on Pin Shop. And once those 100 pins are gone, that is it. If we do another run, it's going to be a different type of pin. So these are limited to just the 100 of the Brokehead Core pin logo. And if you're asking about the size of these things, if you go to thereasonsimbroke.com, they're $14.99. That includes shipping on these limited pins. There's only, again, 100 of them. A little less than that because I have one, you have one, and now all the Patreon backers that backed us for over a year are going to get theirs. So there's less than 100 now already to purchase. But if you become a Patreon backer, after a year, you will get your free pin while supplies last. And these are a little bit bigger than a quarter, so they're a decent size on these things.
They're
and
nice.
They came out great. They're really, really nice. So yet another perk another thank you for becoming a longtime Patreon backer, in this case for most of our Patreon backers. For those of you that joined us in the last month or today or whenever, once you hit your 12 months on Patreon, even if it's just $1 a month, you will get your free Brokehead Core pin, and I track that shit. You know me.
Yes, he does.
I'm very meticulous about these numbers. I already keep track of every 3 months you get your decal for the $5 reward tier. So I'm going to keep track of when you hit your year, and I will send you your free pin. Otherwise, again, if you don't want to wait, or if you want to buy additional pins, they're limited, $14.99, includes shipping. TheReasonsI'mBroke.com. Click on Pin Shop. There are several pictures up there to show you the size.
But of course, guys, our podcast will always be free. The best thing you can do for us is leave us a review on iTunes. Let your friends know about us. Talk to us on Twitter. Tell Daniel that Talia's way worse than Catwoman. Way worse. Catwoman's the best.
You can also get t-shirts at thereasonsI'mBroke.com. Just click on merch. And then you can also represent Julian from Lazy Gaming Guys just bought one.
Woo!
He got his in. He put a picture. He threw it up. So I retweeted it. Thank you so much, Julian. If you haven't checked out Lazy Gaming Guys on YouTube, Scott last night just put up the Platinum Trophy for the latest game that he was playing, A Hat in Time, I believe it was what it was called.
Wow.
But I've been watching him play it, and he put it in his top 5 games of all time.
Wow, that's amazing.
Knowing Scott, it's probably Kingdom of Hearts 1 through 4.
What's that game?
1, 2, 2.5, 3, whatever it is, and then the Hat in Time. I'm sure that's in there with the rest of the Kingdom of Hearts titles. So he put up his Platinum Trophy, and they're obviously supporting us as well. He's supporting us on Patreon.
Aww.
He buys comics from my local comic shop as well. So huge thanks to Scott and the rest of the Lazy Gaming Guys crew, and to the rest of our Patreon backers. You had something to say?
I was going to say, if you guys do buy a shirt, make sure you take a picture, tweet it out to us. We do not get to see who purchases these.
Yeah, it does not give us any names.
It doesn't give us any names, but send us a tweet. We will certainly retweet that.
And with the news and the Patreon shoutouts out of the way, let's head into our comic book highlight, which this week is an all-new interview. We haven't had him on the show before in the past, and this is Timothy Lim from the one-shot of My Hero MAGAdemia, Walmite #1 from Antarctic Press. So this is where we say goodbye to Paul Kelli, your emperor.
Your almighty emperor. So thank you guys so much for tuning into the show. I will see you next week.
And on to our interview with Timothy Lim. Brokehead Core members, as always, all will be well. Enjoy the interview. And welcome to the comic book highlight and interview of the podcast today, Brokehead Core. And today, for our comic book highlight and interview, we've got My Hero MAGAdemia, Walmite. And this is a one-shot that I had pre-ordered months ago when I saw it in the previews catalog. A lot of stuff from Antarctic Press I have been pre-ordering and telling my local comic book shop to order and throw right into my pull list. My Hero MAGAdemia is written by Mark Pellegrini, and we've got colors as well by Brett Smith, who in the past has done G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, and Talon. The artist to My Hero MAGAdemia and also the guest on today's show is Timothy Lim, who in the past has worked on Back to the Future and the more recent and very popular Star Wars adventures. Timothy, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
My Hero MAGAdemia, the way the solicitation reads is, quote, from the creators of Thump, the first 100 days. Did I pronounce that right, or is it Bundred?
It's Bundred. You pronounced that perfectly.
The book that ticked off The Mary Sue, now on its third printing in bookstores nationwide. Walmite is America's champion, and the shadow government and swamp creatures aren't happy about it. They are unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks on those they've dubbed the deplorables, men and women who tap into and grant Walmite his power. So the Mary Sue is upset, which I'm actually okay with. I'm very happy. I'm not a fan of the Mary Sue or a lot of very similar websites. So Timothy Lim, what's been going on? What I've seen on Twitter, a bunch of hate tweets and a bunch of nerd rage reactions and a bunch of reactions from people that I'm like, I don't think you guys even read this stuff anyway. I think you just want to be mad. What is happening?
Yeah, so I guess it starts off with the Mary Sue. We had put out this book called Thump, the First 100 Days, which as of today is actually going into its 9th printing.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. One of the things that we tried to do was we actually saw a fairly big market that was open for people who either lean conservative or were Trump supporters. And we just told ourselves, we said, you know what, there's this huge untapped market. And I think the three of us have a pretty good knowledge of business. And we said, this is something that we really need to aim for. So long story short, I came up with the idea. Mark Pellegrini is a very good friend of mine, very good writer. And then Brett Smith was trying to spearhead some projects that had the same vein. So we put out this book, and of course, the Mary Sue did not do its due diligence, called me a neo-Nazi, a white supremacist, and all sorts of other names. And you would think the irony about it is they had actually featured me on their site many times in the last 8 years. You would think it wouldn't take much effort to dive into their archives and find out more about me before they started leveling these claims. And so what happened was they actually pushed us into our second printing simply because of the Streisand effect. We called them out on it. People started to look us up. And long story short, here we are today. What had happened, though, was that people had known me in the last 7 years as being mostly a pinup cover artist and merchandising artist, but they'd always said, why don't you do something? Like, why don't you do a comic? And I always told them, I'm not really interested in being a penciler. I like sticking with covers. And over a period of time, they just kept on nagging me and saying, you should do this. So we said, well, heck, we had a really good hit with Thump. We have no competition, zero, zilch. There is not a single other pop culture sort of conservative or pro-Trump thing out there. And we said, okay, let's do this. I had just finished watching My Hero Academia, so that's what is being spoofed in the book itself. And I said, there's so many similarities in there. I think this would be pretty ripe for parody and satire. Let's run with it. And the hardest part was finding the publisher, but we just happened to be mutual friends with Antarctic Press. I actually thought that they were pretty anti-Trump with some of the Trump comics that had come out. And then one of my friends said, he was very level-headed. And he said, no, you need to calm down. Please just trust me, read it, and then see what you think. So I read Trump versus Time Lincoln, and then I read The Tremendous Trump.
That's a good one.
And it was a very good one. I was floored. I read it that night, and in the morning I said, I really want to talk to these guys. And we just happened to have a convention that was coming up where we would be together, and I got to know the people. I got to know their viewpoints, and this is the part that I think floors a lot of people. They're not conservative. They're a blend. Some of them are conservative, some of them are moderate, libertarian, liberal, and their philosophy is the same. They said, we want to entertain people. We make political satire. We're trying to poke fun at politics without being mean-spirited. And if that's something that you feel like you can do and navigate, then sure, we're very interested in publishing your work. And so here we are, and we have My Hero MAGAdemia coming out, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive so far. So we're very happy with the strides that we've made at this point.
Especially with Antarctic Press, every publisher, no matter what, however they want to paint it with superheroes or independent books, whatever it is, it's a business. The idea is to sell books, get books to people who want them, and then go from there. So if you're only catering to one side by only, bashing a particular candidate, or in this case, the president, if you're only publishing those books, you're missing a huge market on the other side, which is very apparent here with not only your multiple printings of Thump, but now with what is already sold out, first printings of My Hero MAGAdemia. You want to hit both sides and really service all readers.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that was kind of funny was when we submitted the final draft for My Hero MAGAdemia, they kind of laughed and they said, we actually thought this would be much more far to the right. And then I told them, I said, here's the kind of funny thing about Trump. It was something that actually John Malin had pointed out, the artist for Cable. He said that the president currently is the greatest fictional character in modern times. And the reason why is because he can do something, he can tweet something, and you will either see him as a hero or as a villain. It's almost up to the interpretation of the individual. So you don't even have to really write anything. He writes himself as a character. And so for a lot of the scenarios in the book, Mark just said, I heard him in my head and he just said things the way I would hear him say it, how I think it would be. And that's how it came out. And if someone sees that as being pro or anti-Trump, that's completely up to them. We're not really here to offend, but we're being honest. So there's jokes that are made in there that are definitely not politically correct, because we're old school. All of us are in our 30s. So we grew up during the 80s when comics were honestly written. You a lot of times couldn't tell the politics of the writers, but you could always tell that it was an honest work. There was no big suspension of disbelief, at least as far as it came out of the words of the characters. And so what we're trying to do is, yes, we're trying to cater definitely to a more, I guess, moderate to conservative market. But you make a good point. I mean, the thing that I'm always trying to do is I've kind of not necessarily pigeonholed myself, but I've definitely kind of drawn myself into this corner of being of straddling the line between being a political cartoonist and an illustrator who just wants to entertain. And so I know that after My Hero, we're going to be working on, well, we've already finished Black Ops, which is not a political book at all. And basically what we're trying to do is show people, hey, conservatives and moderates, libertarians, and the apolitical, they work in comics. We produce good content that can entertain. Please give us a shot. Judge the quality of the work by itself and take a risk on us. That's essentially kind of what we want to do, and hopefully we can achieve those goals.
That's something I've seen a lot on Twitter, and that's definitely upset me too, is when there are a lot of comic artists and writers that do lean right now to the right is the more, on Twitter at least and on the internet, the unpopular, right? If you're out there and you're conservative, you will get what I would say, I think, more hate than if you're on the left. And that's simply the political climate. I think when you had a Democratic or a liberal president, it was the opposite. It all kind of flip-flops and fluctuates depending on, who's more upset. And at the moment, the left is very upset. So something I've seen is, like Ethan Van Sciver, for example, he gets a lot of crap on Twitter for his political views, and sometimes he's admitted himself like, oh, I was drunk that night and I said things I shouldn't have and I PM people. But just the fact that he is out there with his opinion has made people upset. And I've told people online and in the shop and everywhere, like, I don't care what Ethan Van Sciver believe, if he and I align on beliefs or not. Does he draw an amazing Green Lantern? That's what I care about. If he starts drawing in Barack Obama or Trump or whoever in there, it's like, well, no, they're not Green Lanterns as far as I'm concerned. I just care about the work. And I'm glad that should be the message at the end of the day. It's, can you make good comics? And if you want your politics in a comic, that's when you pick up things like what Antarctic Press is putting out. And until then, if you follow the work, if you follow the comics, if you follow the artist, whatever they believe personally should not reflect what they're actually producing.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I point out is a lot of people say, well, is there not a degree of hypocrisy there? Because we see you on Twitter all the time, and obviously you have this kind of rabid pro-Trump persona. And is that not injecting a form of politics, the same politics that you despise? And I give two responses to that. I say, first of all, I'm coming in from the back end. A lot of these people, they get a lot of ire because they've kind of built a career from the ground up. And then now that they've reached a point of fame or prestige and that they let their politics out, people don't like that because it's almost like a red herring or a swap. Whereas me, Mark and I, we're virtually unknown in comics. We do have a very, very small fan base, or we did starting out. But because we're starting from the ground up, it's like, this is all fresh territory. I'm going to come out the gate and just say it. Like, I am a conservative. I did vote for the president, but that doesn't detract from the quality of my work. So that now that you know what you're getting into. So I don't feel like I'm pulling the wool over anyone's eyes. The second thing I make sure to mention to people is this issue of an overall tolerance. All my favorite comic book artists and creators, they're all liberal, and I know that. Adam Hughes, I consider him probably the greatest pinup artist right now in the industry. And you look at his Twitter, and it's kind of almost even keeled. He does post a lot of his work, but right every now and then he'll throw in a jab against either the president. I don't think he's attacked fans, which I really appreciate. But as an adult, you're just aware that these people are not going to agree with you, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Larry Hama has said a lot of times things in terms of no one really knows what his politics are. He kind of vacillates between conservative, libertarian, liberal, and that's okay. His quality of work is good. And the one I always bring out is Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis is probably perhaps my favorite writer in the last decade as far as comics is concerned. And when you read his books, especially Punisher, Fury, you are not able to really tell who this guy is or what his politics are. He writes his characters in such a way that they have a life of their own. And so I've noticed that as far as my friends and I are concerned and some other professionals, I feel like it's almost one-sided in terms of how some of this tolerance goes. And I think that's the thing that upsets me the most, is I thought to myself, perhaps mistakenly, for the last 8 years, I have been able to forgive and understand, because I'm an adult, that people are not going to agree with me, and that's okay. And I think a lot of people think the same way. But now that the tides have changed and we have a president who's a conservative, it's just this almost rabid vehemence towards us. And that's the part that I find disheartening. And so that's why, even on my side, I made a pledge to myself, and that is that if I do have fans who had known me and are upset, I don't attack them, because I say, you supported me, and the least I can do is honor your opinion, because I know you, and it's different. It's different than if you're an anonymous person on Twitter or Facebook versus someone I've met at conventions, I've talked to, I've spoken to. And if you do have a problem, you can always DM me, and I can tell you kind of my personal opinions, and you'll know from talking to me that I bear no grudges or vehemence towards you. I don't want anything bad to happen to you at all. I certainly don't have any hate in my heart. But I've noticed that putting your neck out there, especially in this political climate, it can be kind of challenging.
Yeah, Kelli and I, she's my other host. We've noticed we've been doing the show a little over 5 years, and in the past, we've kept it at comic books and movies and all the fun stuff. And every now and again, when we're talking about the Brocat block, as we mentioned it, our personal lives, the day to day, as listeners kind of want to know more about Kelli and I, like inevitably we did eventually in the past talk about politics. And the last time they came up has been since we have had Trump. And while in the past, we've done fun things like, okay, everyone does it, the impression of the president, whether it was Barack or Trump. And then when it came to comics, the state of the industry, especially on the Marvel side, where readers are upset, and including myself, in the direction that they've taken with the characters in the past, I've had listeners accuse me of, well, you hate liberals, you hate leftists. It's like, no, Kelli and I are left, but we can't even criticize almost our own side, or the far left, I should say. I don't even know if that's the right terminology of it. But when we do, then we're accused of being, it's like, oh, you're completely right. It's like, well, you can't criticize something. You can't criticize your own side anymore. And this is when, as you said, it has gotten really, really touchy and heightened, where like even the same side, if you even want to call it that, can't commentate or can't criticize their own, I guess, followers or people that are on that same spectrum. It feels different than it did 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, like I said, I have two jobs. One is I'm a freelance illustrator, but the other one is I have a doctorate degree in audiology. So I actually teach college courses, and I see patients too. And because I work in an academic setting, it's fairly liberal. Luckily, I think my department, my immediate coworkers, they're very friendly, and politics doesn't really come into play. But because I've worked in academia my whole life, I have been surrounded by people who don't agree with me. And like I think I'm projecting, but I just came from the mindset that, well, there's an overall tolerance. Once you get past the age of 21, once you're old enough to drink, you understand that social norms dictate that people are going to disagree with you, and that's something you get used to. And I think I'm kind of surprised when that's not the case. And so one thing that I always make sure to do, and I slip a couple of times when I'm in a hurry or I'm not thinking, but I always try to make a distinction between Democrats, the left, and SJWs. In my opinion, it's almost like a spectrum where you have the SJWs, and I think that's actually probably equivalent to probably what you said, the far left.
Yes.
And those are the people who I think pose those problems. Your party line Democrats, the people I know personally who they're scared, they're frightened, because they're like, I'm a Democrat. I've always been a Democrat. But these people need to chill. They're not doing us any good, because if we want to win again in 2020 or 2018 during the midterms, they're actively working against our PR and kind of destroying our effort. And I tell them, I said, no, see, we're on the same side, because in my opinion, I never thought that comics was necessarily supposed to be one side or the other. That's not my viewpoint. My viewpoint is it should be a kind of healthy industry for normal individuals that has all different types of opinions. I think diversity of opinion is the only true type of diversity that truly matters, because one thing that makes our country great is the ability to say what you want. I mean, you can say some pretty crazy things, and that's okay. If you think that the earth is flat, I'm not going to stop you from thinking that. In fact, I'm kind of curious, well, what makes you say that? I might not hold that belief, but I'm really interested to hear what you have to say. And one of the things I like about Antarctic is that they're not trying to be a conservative company. That's not their mission statement. Their mission statement is, we look at all these submissions, all the people that we have in our company come from different political stripes. And so we feel like we are able to present a very even toned source of entertainment. We accept submissions from people who are from the left, some from the right, and we hope that the quality of the work is multifaceted so that there's something for everyone. And I think that's healthy. I mean, like, you know it from being a comic book fan, but we've always had a Green Arrow. And Green Arrow was certainly not a conservative. But you had that. You had Nightcrawler, who was a Catholic priest. You had Daredevil, who was a Catholic lawyer. You had all these different stripes, and it was never an issue until recently, when everything becomes politicized. And so I always tell people that I yearn for the day when people like me and the quote unquote Comicsgate community, I mean, hopefully there's gonna be a day where we're just not needed. That would ironically put us out of business, but it'll also be a good day, because it means that everything has been righted. We can get along. We can all talk about comics again.
Going back to the Mary Sue real quick, Thump the first 100 days. What was it exactly about this book that got their attention? And obviously it leads into My Hero, but what was it about Thump that actually got looks in your way?
One of the things that immediately I think stuck out to them, it was twofold. One of them was, we decided that rather than leave it ambiguous, we went ahead and told everyone that we were pro-Trump, because we knew that the hashtag MAGA fan base, they were actively looking for entertainment, and in order to present it to them, because a lot of people saw that cover and they thought it was anti-Trump, because it's like, you're mocking him because he's a rabbit. It's like, no. We have it in our disclaimer. We're a trio of fairly pro-Trump supporters. So that out of the gate, I think, took their attention. The second thing that we did is, the subject matter of the book is, it tells the story of the 2016 election, but it actually does it from our point of view, from the point of view of the crazy people like us who read the news, looked at the news every day, kept up with all the rallies, knew all the memes. And so one of the things that we did was, we have to address that silly frog that showed up in a lot of people's in a lot of news sources as being kind of as part of the alt-right or part of 4chan or Poll. So we have a scene in there where he meets a little frog, and it's implied, if you know the humor, that that's the frog that kind of spurred a lot of online discussion, debate, and was mistakenly believed to be kind of the avatar for white supremacy. So we included that picture in our previews on Amazon. And like I said, I think those two factors combined, that's all the Mary Sue had to see. And they started throwing out names, which I thought was funny, because their article came out in August. That book didn't come out till October, which meant that they only had maybe 4 preview pages to see. And I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous. I mean, Media Matters, they came after me too after the book came out, and they did the same thing. And I know you've seen my Twitter page. It's almost like a warning sign to everyone. It's kind of like, hey, I'm going to pin this tweet at the top, but this is the note to everyone out there. If you're going to accuse me of anything, don't accuse me of being a white nationalist, because I'm not even white. I mean, you're going to look like a fool. And we've had at least 3 or 4 attacks from pretty prominent media sources who have done that. And it's like, these people don't even bother looking us up. They just proceed with the attack on its own. So, I mean, that part kind of annoys me. But the Mary Sue, with all their supporters and their subscribers, you'll notice that they don't get much. They don't get much attention. I mean, we patrol them pretty carefully, and despite the fact that they have tens of thousands of followers, they don't get that many likes and retweets. I think it's either bots or it's people who are just kind of sick of them and don't pay attention to them anymore.
Yeah, it could have also been another effort to try to. That's always the idea or the goal for them, is to try to get as many clicks on these articles as possible. And it ended up, as you said, working out for you, because the Mary Sue, now you're on your, would you say, your 9th printing on Thump, and that inevitably led into further promotion for My Hero MAGAdemia. Kelly and I always go back to with the TV show Lucifer, when that came out, and the 1 Million Moms was boycotting Olive Garden due to their support of the promotion. They had a tie-in promotion with the Lucifer television show, and they had this big campaign against the TV show, and inevitably it ended up getting them more publicity and more views on the show itself, and now it's on its 4th or 5th season. So it's another very similar way in which something can backfire and actually further promote something that you are against in some way. So that we've always joked that whatever TV show we don't want canceled, 1 Million Moms needs to be behind it and be against it, because that will inevitably keep it around for a long time. So if you want, for My Hero MAGAdemia, if we can get more issues, get 1 Million Moms against them, get Mary Sue again to go against them, and you'll have your own publishing company at that point.
Yeah, I think that'd be quite wonderful. That's a type of publicity that honestly initially was very daunting. I'm not used to getting any type of negative press, just because I was so under the radar that no one really cared. And I definitely didn't dip into politics at all until last year. And so having people just say these kind of outrageous things, that was a very new experience.
Yeah, what did that feel like the first time you got the worst tweet you've ever read against you?
I mean, it's insulting. It's insulting because they literally don't know me, and they hurl an accusation. And one of the things that I try to point out, and it's hard on Twitter. It's hard because you're limited to so many characters, and I think that's actually a good thing, because it means that you have to watch very carefully what you say in X number of characters. But I teach classes on counseling and critical thinking, and it kind of annoys me that a lot of these people don't think critically. So what will happen is there will be a blue checkmark person who will come after me and say, well, you're a white nationalist, or you're a white supremacist. So they're not an anonymous person. You can see flat out who they are. And I will say, I'm not. I'm Asian. Like most racists I know, most very overt racists, are pretty proud of it. It's part of their ideology. They admit to it. And so I tell them, well, I'm not, because I'm Asian. And if you want, I have a lot of friends who are of different ethnicities who are either conservative or voted for Trump. And what they do is they go into this kind of cognitive pretzel where they then say, well, that doesn't mean anything because the Japanese were Nazis too.
Oh, here we go.
I know. And I'm thinking, first of all, I'm gonna put my emotions aside because I'm actually of Chinese descent. And if you know anything about history, the Japanese did not do good things to the Chinese. So that's insulting, first of all. Second of all, you have this idea of Occam's razor, the simplest, straightest distance between 2 points. So either you're wrong and I am not a white nationalist, or you're correct, and by some way I'm doing mental gymnastics to side myself with the Fourth Reich or whatever. Which of the two is more probable? And so what I show people is I say this is a pretty good example of cognitive dissonance. They're so convinced that they are correct and that they can demonize people simply based on who they voted for, that there is no way that they're above they can't be corrected because they know for sure that they're a smart individual. And it's like, no, you're not. You made a mistake. I am not a smart individual either. I make mistakes. It is part of being a human and part of the human condition. We make these types of errors. But the worst thing you can do is keep on putting your foot in your mouth because then you just look like an idiot, It's like, stop kicking yourself. But I think that is the part that really disheartened me. Is it would be one thing if it was a tweet from someone who had a valid criticism, someone who, and I think the only valid criticism that I'm getting that really makes me think is you shouldn't be making propaganda. And the reason that makes me stop and think is because it's very hard to define what is considered just good humor versus something that could be perceived as propaganda. And I asked a lot of people, like, where would you draw that line? And a lot of them, it's kind of like defining what art is. It's like, hey, you're right. Like, where is the fine line between satire and parody and propaganda? And I think I tell people, I say, if you call me a propagandist, I don't think I will debate you. I do not see myself as such, but because I have such a poor understanding of where that line is drawn, I will accept that criticism. And if you level that against me, I will not fight it because I think that's fine. I think that is a valid criticism. So I think that's the thing that really shocked me the most when I first started getting those negative comments back.
For My Hero MAGAdemia, what was it initially how did people find out immediately that this was a book that was actually intended to be pro-Trump as opposed to some of the other things like the Tremendous Trump that came out in the past. Could this book not fit in to just the casual reader as, oh, this is also a parody in spite of whatever side it's making fun of?
So here's the funny thing about that. I don't think people know that it's pro-Trump. So just to clarify, what had happened was I originally did a drawing of the main character, Wall Mite, and I put it out there because I thought it was funny. I was not actually intending to do a comic, but the response was so positive and it got retweeted so many times that weekend I sat down with Mark and I said, okay, I know I promised I wouldn't be a penciler on a comic or even work on one, but I mean, I think we need to pull the trigger on this one because it seems like it got a lot of positive response. People thought it was really funny. So we went ahead and did it. The only thing I can think of is that in the solicits, it says that, it doesn't say anything pro-Trump. In fact, here's the irony about it. We actually got a quote from Chuck Dixon for the piece, and it's a literal quote. And it's at the very bottom of the Diamond previews where he says, "What the hell is this?" And so we thought, like, oh my gosh, people are going to read that and they're going to think, oh my goodness, like, this is an anti-Trump book. I honestly think what it is it's the subset of anime culture. Something I'm very new to. I watch anime, I read manga, but I'm not involved with the culture at all. To me, it's just another form of entertainment. Mm-hmm. And it was a lot of weebs, a lot of weeaboos who just railed on it. I mean, they hadn't even read it, and they were just spazzing out on Twitter. They didn't even know if it was pro-Trump, anti-Trump. To be honest, I don't think they cared. I think it was just the fact that a lot of them considered the source material so sacred that it's above parody and above satire. But by coincidence, they all just happen to be SJWs. I know. I clicked on every single one of them. So every single freak out, I clicked on their profile and they had all their pronouns listed. They identified as a furry or whatever. They were, sharing Bernie Sanders quotes and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so my wife and I were kind of joking about it because we said, she was wondering if it was something that was just part of anime culture. And I basically said, I just think it's that generation. I think that they grew up with it. They grew up with anime and manga, something that I did not. I found it in my teens. Mm-hmm. And I think that because a lot of them are quote unquote the snowflake generation, they just can't take it. They don't know what to handle. Maybe they've never even heard of satire parody. I commented, I said, maybe we're used to it because we grew up with National Lampoon, Saturday Night Live, Mad TV. I don't even know if people still watch that stuff anymore. So maybe they just don't know what it is. And so I think people assumed almost by coincidence that it was a made by pro-Trump people without actually knowing about it, which is funny because we didn't advertise it as really overtly, except for that one quote by the Mary Sue where we said it upset them.
Yeah, it's not until you actually see the preview that you're like, okay, you can kind of see where in what direction the book is leaning or heading. And so I always thought that was interesting where I was looking at all these tweets and it's like, die and burn this book and all this nonsense. And you're right, it does feel like they're more offended by the fact that their sacred My Hero Academia, which is extremely popular. I work at a local comic shop and we sell that book all the time, that it was just even an insult to have, had it been any other president, I'm sure you wouldn't have heard it, but just an insult just to have Trump as any character at all was already going to bring you some negative attention. So that's what I was kind of hoping to get at, because it doesn't feel like anyone should be upset at this until they read it, and that's assuming that they even care to be offended by parody one way or another.
Right, and like I said, when you get the copy of it, you'll notice that in some of the dialogue, it could go one way or the other. So here's the spoiler alert. I'm guessing that your listeners, they're gonna, if they read it, they'll see it eventually. But believe it or not, it's actually not the biggest spoiler in the book. But we do make fun of the part in My Hero Academia where he tells the protagonist to eat his hair, where he pulls a little strand of hair out and he says, "Eat this hair," and that's how he gets his power. But we play on that same joke, and it makes perfect sense because Trump is known for his hair. So he rips off all his hair and he feeds it to the main character. And my wife saw that, and my wife was like, "Oh my gosh, that can be interpreted as anti-Trump. Like, that's how I interpret it." And I said, "That's good, but we're not going to sacrifice that because it's funny. If you've read the manga, the joke fits. You're going to get an extra boost of laughter when you see that scene because it's like a reward. Like, oh, I've read My Hero Academia. I know that scene's in the book. So I told my wife, I said, two out of three of us have outvoted you. Like that joke stays. If people in the MAGA crowd get mad about it, that's because they can't take the joke. There's some people on our side who can't take it either. So take it, because that's kind of the thing of Trump, is he's a caricature. He's a walking caricature. Love him or hate him, those jokes stay. They write themselves. And so we will keep that joke in there.
That also shows that you care more about the creation, the book itself, than how other people are going to feel.
Right. And I mean, I think audience feelings, I think that's important, simply because I think that's who you're trying to cater to. But I think there's a very fine line between catering to the audience and getting as many people as possible versus sacrificing something that's pretty obvious. And that's one thing I've noticed with a lot of recent fiction, is even in some very good writing, it's almost as if the writer pulls their punches a little bit. They never quite hit home. They always have to dial it back, pull it back just a little bit. And one thing that Mark and I had said is creatively, we like being honest with the readers. If we don't want the reader saying, why didn't you take the opportunity to do this? And we don't want to just sit there and be like, yeah, we didn't want to offend anyone. We didn't want to, we wanted to make sure that was clean. We don't want that either. So I think there's a very delicate balance. It does lean more to the audience. I think that is important, because that's how you stay in business, is you cater to what they want. But on the other hand, whenever you have a very easy layup or a very easy free throw, you take it, because that's what it's there for. That's what's presenting itself.
For My Hero MAGAdemia itself, it's already out of print. Can you tell us if there are plans already for a second printing of the issue, in which, at the time of this recording, some people have received it in the mail already? I know it's not quite yet at local comic shops, but it will be by the time this episode releases. If people want to look for this book, where will they be able to find it, either physically or digitally?
It will not be offered digitally for the moment, and the reason why is just to cut back on piracy. But the other thing is that we like people to be able to have the physical copy. It is going into a second printing. In fact, it is going through printing right now, as far as I've been told by Antarctic Press. We sold out of the first copy simply because we had such a low ship order. Again, no one's heard of us. So it was one thing to go into the print field. And then now a lot of people who are book publishers, now they know who we are because of Thump. But it's very different from comics. In comics, it's a completely different audience. And so it was the same thing. Shops were seeing the ads for it, and they might have bought it, but then they saw, well, we don't know who these people are. Like, who's Timothy Lim? Who's Mark Pellegrini? They know Brett Smith because Brett Smith is a longtime colorist, but it's like, we don't want to take risks, so we're not going to buy a lot of copies. So what they would typically do is someone would come in, they'd special order it, and then the comic shop would get that special order plus one, or maybe plus two. And there were some shops who didn't order any at all because they didn't have anyone coming in to get it. So what I've been telling people is we're sold out, because what Antarctic did was the demand for it online was so strong that they pulled 150 copies out of their warehouse that they normally keep as backup or for conventions. And they started putting that online. So I think they sold them online starting at 6 p.m. that evening. And by 1 a.m., they had already sold out of all 150 copies. So the only chance that your listeners are going to get is on April the 11th. If they're lucky, their store probably ordered 2 copies, maybe extra. So if you're lucky, you can snag that one. But we are going into a second printing. That will be available around that time, if not the week later, at least starting online. So if they just follow me on Twitter, if they follow Antarctic Press, we're going to put a link up where they can get it. But yes, we are going into a second printing.
Will the second printings be available through local comic shops as well, or strictly through Antarctic?
No, as far as I know, they will be available through local comic shops. We have heard from a lot of them who are in a panic because they're basically like, oh, these people are coming in and they want this book and it's not out yet, but I don't know if I ordered enough copies. So I'm pretty sure that just like Tremendous Trump, I think it's going to come in into stores in a physical way as well.
To go back real quick to the digital release, do you think that if you do ever plan to release it, or if you did release it digitally, that it would affect sales in that big of a way, because there's always that argument of digital actually helps books in spite of the piracy, and then others say, well, no, people would just copy that download file and spread it everywhere to not support a particular publisher or a writing team if they disagree with them.
That is a good question. What makes me kind of nervous is that, as you know, it's kind of hard to find digital sales numbers. So I actually don't know how well they do.
Mm-hmm.
I can only speak from personal experience. I don't like digital copies. I actually started doing it about 2 years ago when I got my iPad for the first time. I thought this is really cool because I can get digital comics. And so I started doing it. I stopped doing it because it's just not the same.
Yeah, it sucks.
It sucks. Like if you've grown up reading comics, there's a joy in a 2-page spread where you can hold it. It's almost like an experience. You can hold the paper, you can feel it. Your eye draws itself to certain panels above others, and it's different in a digital format. So I just quit altogether. I just stopped reading digital, went completely into a physical format. However, I will say this: there have been a couple times where there was a book that I did not like, that was not planning on picking up, and then people said, "No, you need to read this. It's really good." And I said, "No, you need to convince me." And they would send me the PDF. They would say, read it, because they know I have a track record of buying what I like. And so one of the ones that was recent was Doomsday Clock. So I had no interest in reading it. There were some decisions made that, at least from the buzz, I was not fond of.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't read all of them, but I've read about 2 of them, 2 PDFs, and I pre-ordered it. So I went on Amazon and I said, no, you got me. A really good story. I was completely wrong. This is great stuff. I will do it. But I have heard from other people. They said, no, I pirate everything. I don't pay a dime. I just read everything. I just keep on my Kindle. I prefer to do it that way. So what we're probably going to do is, if My Hero MAGAdemia, if it does really well, and if we go into a part 2, around the time of part 2 coming out, we will probably at that point make the first issue available for digital download, because at that time we're assuming that it's already kind of made its way around.
Right.
It'll get people interested in getting the sequel.
No, that makes complete sense. Once they've decided there's no more printings, they're not going to re-release, then you can, because then it's all bonus. Because if you're not going to re-release it in print, or not even as a trade, because it's one issue so far. All right, I definitely wanted to get to the bottom of that. But yeah, Brocat Core, if you want to, as Timothy said, pre-order a second copy or a second printing of My Hero MAGAdemia, check around this time the episode release. Go straight to Timothy Lim's Twitter. And where can the Brocat Core find you, and where can they find Antarctic Press?
They can find Antarctic Press on Twitter, I think at Antarctic Press. They can find me on Twitter at POTUS Thump. That is POTUS, POTUS, as in President of the United States, Thump, THUMP, like Thumper, the rabbit.
Perfect. And there will be links in today's episode in the show notes. So you can also swipe over and you can find the link to everywhere you can find Timothy and Antarctic Press. Final question. Have you been retweeted yet by the president?
I wish. I've come pretty close.
Has he favorited it?
No, he has not. And the thing is that would really make our day. One of the things that we do want is we hope that it gets someone's attention that's pretty high up. One of the things that we do want to promote is we'd like to promote conservatives in the arts. And the reason why, and this is again kind of speaking on a personal level, a lot of us, I'm pretty sure Ethan Van Sciver's, me, your Chuck Dixon's, we feel and we're aware that we've kind of been ignored and kind of marginalized. And so I think either raising a degree of awareness of the contributions of us, and we just want to work. I think that's very important. And so I think that this kind of way of getting attention, of saying, hey, we're producing some quality work that hopefully appeals to a conservative base. We hope that brings up some flags and gets the attention of people pretty high up. I have been retweeted by some people I would never have suspected would do it. Sebastian Gorka, who worked for the president for a period of time last year, he's retweeted us. Dan Bongino retweeted us earlier this week. Yeah, he's former Secret Service agent. He works for NRA TV. He's a good guy. He and I have talked on many occasions, but that was very interesting. And then Jack Posobiec, who has been retweeted by the president, and he's a journalist up in Washington, D.C., and he's retweeted us several times as well. And so we kind of like the fact that we're having kind of a pop culture influence on the other side. And like I said, for your listeners who are listening who may be liberal or lean that way, I tell them, don't worry, because in 4 years or 8 years, assuming that the presidency changes to the other side, I'm going to shut up, because I was quiet during the Obama years. I'm active now because the opportunity presents itself. But again, Trump is a unique character. The roller coaster ride lasts pretty much as long as he does. And then I have a feeling that I'll either move on to other things or definitely be a lot less maybe political or vocal than normal.
Well, I'm really excited to read My Hero MAGAdemia. Again, I pre-ordered it as soon as I saw it in the previews catalog, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun to read, and I'm not the kind of guy that takes things incredibly seriously. I'm excited to laugh at it and laugh with you guys as I read My Hero MAGAdemia, and I hope there is a second part to it. And once again, I do congratulate you on the success of Thump the First 100 and on My Hero MAGAdemia, to you and the crew at Antarctic Press, too.
Thank you very much. And just for your listeners and to you, if you like Tremendous Trump, I think you'll like this book. We've been told that tonally they feel like they're very much in the same vein. So I hope that your listeners out there will give us a shot.
Perfect. Thank you again so much, Timothy, for being on the Reasons I'm Broke podcast. Listeners, make sure to follow Timothy, and the links will be in today's description. Once again, thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you.